Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everyone.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer insights and ideas for how emerging small and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can establish and grow their business.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean all aspects involved in establishing and growing brands across channels and platforms. On our show, we bring on guests that are brand founders, leaders, investors, as well as all kinds of suppliers to these emerging brands that are subject matter experts to share their unique insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please follow the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. Let's get to today's episode. Today's Road to Retail episode is powered by Market Performance Group, MPG, a leading omnichannel commerce agency delivering integrated commercial solutions that accelerate profitable growth. MPG's new growth initiative helps brands of any size win in every channel, whether launching DTC, scaling on Amazon, or entering brick and mortar. Its team, veterans from top retailers, CPGs, and digital platforms, connects brands with consumers across the full funnel, delivering right-size strategies, strategic go-to-market plans, advanced analytics, and deep retailer relationships for exceptional business results. Check them out at marketperformancegroup.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Road to Retail, where we talk to great people in the CPG industry, whether they're brand founders, investors, suppliers. So first of all, I want to welcome my good friend, Bruce Montgomery. Welcome, Bruce. Great to see you again.
Tracy, good to see you again. It's always fun to get together for another episode of the show. So tell us who we have here today on the show and what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. So we've got Kat Weaver. She is the founder of Power to Pitch. So welcome, Kat. Great to have you. I'm really looking forward to this episode. I think our small emerging brand audience is really going to love this because everybody loves to talk about funding and money. So welcome, Kat, and let's kick it off. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me. It's quite the honor amongst the many amazing guests that you've had in the past. So, and I hope to do it the same level of justice, but I'm a two-time accidental entrepreneur, I like to say. I've never had a corporate job, and I think I would fail miserably. I wanted to go into medicine, but started my first company out of my college dorm room, then lost everything in my business to a fire only months after starting, and a professor said, you still got people knocking on your dorm room door for a product, you should do a pitch competition. And I had no idea what that was. I had a fear of public speaking and really was a means of survival. So my first pitch, I won $7,500 to kickstart the business. And my claim to fame is I went on to win 22 of 23 I applied for. So there was clearly a system that worked over and over again. And along that way, I met so many incredible other founders, but they struggle to talk about themselves, what they do, and what they need. And it seemed really simple, but there's so much that goes on as a founder. And I realized that they were missing out on funding opportunities, advisors, mentorship. And I had this clear system that worked. And so I had a side hustle then to that main business. I graduated college, took the business full time and lived out of my parents' basement, did everything from Amazon, Good Morning America 4 times, you name it, and made every founder mistake twice over. But in kind of side coaching these other founders, I started helping them get funding. And it went viral. And it was just so much more rewarding. And I realized that was my superpower. So after 6 years, I sold and exited that first consumer product company and founded what's now Power to Pitch, with the whole mission of helping founders get funded faster. And to date, we've helped founders raise over 50 million in grants and venture capital and counting.
Wow.
Dang. So, Kat, I got to ask, what happened on the one? 22 out of 23. Come on. You
You know,
got to
if I
get,
was 100%, people would really extra question me, but
oh,
I get asked that a lot actually. And the founder I went up against, I remember her to this day. She's so incredible. I thought I gave the pitch of my life. And English was her second language. She's got a PhD. She's already got like 4 patents. I mean, she just absolutely deserved it. So I just went up against someone who had a better company traction and metrics than me, and it was as simple as that.
well, I like that you remember all that with such great detail. Not that you're a sore loser or anything.
I'm just extremely competitive to the point that it might drive some nuts, but I played tennis in college, so I was born a competitor.
That's good. It's usually quite helpful. Okay, so let's press in to what you're currently doing here on Power to Pitch. When it comes to capital, most founders and our audience, as we've discussed, is emerging brands, small brands, challenger brands, people that probably initially don't have a lot of money. So most founders think of venture capital first. Can you walk us through the different types of funding available to founders, and what do you think makes the most sense the first time you're trying to get your hands on cash? Because we've heard lots of bits where it's like, oh my gosh, I never would have given away that much equity early for such a little bit of money.
Yeah, I like to say venture capital should be plan E, not plan A. There are so many options in between in terms of funding. I don't think there's enough education and resources out there, which is why I started doing what I'm doing to help founders in that regard. And the core of what I do is help founders raise money, but actually only 2% of businesses in the US raise venture. And out of that 2%, 75% fail. Like, so what does that tell you in terms of through, capital is supposed to throw fuel on the fire, but if the business doesn't have a solid foundation, it's just going to help the plane crash faster. And so it's actually a really unrealistic way for most businesses to grow. And so my favorite first option is I call it customer financing or pre-sales. There is always an option to do that to start talking with customers. My second favorite option are corporate grants. So they're very different from government grants, and that corporate grants are come from organizations like FedEx or Amazon or even Progressive, and they get tax incentives to give away cash. There's PR credibility. They get some PR out of it. They get to learn from their customers, do some promo, and it's a win-win all around. And so I won 22 of the 23 corporate grants, ended up winning two more for Power to Pitch as well. So I have a total grant accolades of 24 in my back pocket, essentially. But after the corporate grants, I tell founders, or even the government grant route, very different, but I prefer starting with the corporate grant side first. And they're for founders anywhere from zero in sales, idea stage, literally idea stage, up to 1 million in annual recurring revenue. There are so many available. And I just did a session on this today, actually. Like, they're just such an under-tapped resource. And I've helped founders win millions of them. When you have the right foundation, it actually becomes very easy. It's because a lot of these grants ask the same questions, so it becomes copy and paste, which is why I love them so much. And then after the grant side, I advise founders to consider debt. Debt is a scary word, maybe not always applicable, but whether it's loans, micro loans, even credit cards, getting lines of credit, talking to certain organizations, if possible, and building relationship with a banker and or creditor, because debt is cheaper than equity. So if a founder can consider those options or even their own savings, like I say, always do that because it's technically the cheaper option. And then, after thinking about certain debt options, then you can think about capital from angel investors or venture. But a founder who's under 1 million in annual recurring revenue, you're typically not going to be noticed much by a venture capital. It's more rare. These firms exist, but you're typically going to want to talk to some angel investors because they're not going to have as high growth expectations. They might be willing to take your call quicker. They might be a little bit more involved operationally. So I think the venture capitalists are very different than angels. And I always advise founders go the angel route before VC. And I would even bake in before going after angel and VC is I forgot to mention crowdfunding. It's not for everyone. It can be quite expensive. But if that's an option and you're willing to put some marketing dollars and time and effort behind a crowdfunding campaign, there's both dilutive and non-dilutive options, meaning you either give up equity or you don't. That can be a great option to go instead of the investor route.
So two quick follow-ups here, Kat. Are there databases of companies that do these grants, or do you need someone like you that's been around the block multiple times and knows how to even look for them?
So you can Google until your eyes bleed. There's some public information. They can be take a few hours to maybe scrape or find, and some organizations share them. But in my grant program, we share a list of 200 plus every single month. But what we say is you can have any sort of list, and this is even investors as well. You can have a list of anything, but if you don't know how to utilize the list, it's no good. And so the core of what I do is actually help founders communicate and build that foundational pitch before they go to utilize the list to then copy and paste because there's so many little nuances to make sure you get right because you could spend hours of wasted time trying to go after some of these opportunities and knowing what to look for. So there's definitely some publicly available that you can search, but it can be a little bit of a tricky process for first timers.
Right. And one other follow-up, when you ran through that list of 4 or 5 things that come before you should consider venture, where would you bucket friends and family, or do you try to steer away from that? Because some of these very new ventures, on the one hand, someone's parents, brothers, sisters may love them and want to support them. But if it rolls over and dies, it could make Thanksgiving really uncomfortable. Do you try to tell people that sounds really good, but think through all the hair on that if it rolls over?
I mean, if not everyone has that kind of family connection to be able to do that, so it's a blessing to even have that as an option, one. Two, I would bucket that at the level on that list towards like next to angels or right before angels.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't think it should come before grants, debt, crowdfunding because it can get a bit sticky and there's a lot of pressure with that. But again, if that's an option or if they're even willing to give you a loan instead of take on some equity and if they're not going to maybe provide more value outside of the cash, I think it gets to be really tricky and expensive. So I put that towards the bucket really near like the angel investor side.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Tracy?
So you've helped a lot of founders, of different size get funding. So talk to our audience a little bit about some of the misconceptions that people have about the process of securing funding.
I love this question because if I had a dollar for every DM of a founder who asked me to review their pitch deck, thinking that that was going to be the magic bullet to get capital, I'd probably be on an island somewhere. The biggest misconception that I see is you're going to make a pitch deck and be able to send it out to everyone you know or every investor you can get their email your hands on. You think the capital is just going to flow. Or you think spending hours updating a deck is going to be the reason a check will convert. And that is the furthest from the truth. I've actually helped a ton of founders raise capital without ever sharing a deck because
Wow.
the reason is the investors invest into you as a founder before what you do,
Yeah.
especially at the very early stages. It has nothing to do with how pretty your pitch deck is. And actually, it can actually be more of a deterrent than help you. And that pitch deck, I see founders, they tell me they spend tens of hours, if not like hundreds of hours, literally refining a pitch deck. And then they haven't even worked on building a relationship with an investor, which is way more important and asking what the investor actually wants to see and what metrics they would expect. And so the first biggest misconception I would say is that a pitch deck is going to solve all. It's not nothing to do with it. I call it your sidekick, your backup dancer. It is not supposed to give it all away. It's just a little taste of what's to come. And the second misconception is that investors are going to validate your idea or operate the business. Their goal is to invest in what's already working, to put literal that fuel to the fire, to and back you as the subject matter expert, the one who's going to execute. You've already kind of validated and figured this out. I see so many founders are like, oh, I'm going to go raise money to go build the thing when they haven't even talked to customers or gotten insights and done some of the hard work, and investors aren't going to give them the time of the day and for very good reasons. They're not a uh, donating to a cause kind of thing, I would say.
Mhm.
Third biggest misconception I would give is that any, you know, all money is not good money. Investors are abundant, but it's about finding the right fit because not all investors are good investors and not all money is good money. And I see so many founders take on the wrong people, add them to their cap table, meaning that they're forever have equity in your company kind of thing. And they have the wrong expectations. Maybe they don't align with the company. They want to take control. They don't actually align with what you're doing, or they could be aggressive or even abusive. Like I have plenty of stories around that, but it's the expectation, oh, if I, go fine, I'll take any money, I'll take any check. And I won't work with a founder in our investor program if they're not willing to change that mindset and put a lens on who's an ideal investor. And I'm actually going to be picky about who I'm going to let on my cap table. So those are my
We could stop right now and put your last 2 minutes on an infinite loop because I could not possibly agree more. Tracy and I have had people sitting in the guest chair where you are right now just say, I just need money. I know exactly what I'm doing. Or they say, the more thoughtful ones will say, I want value added capital. I need someone who really knows someone who can help me with Amazon or someone with an in to Walmart. But the horror stories of people writing checks and then torturing the executive team or the founder are endless. And it is literally a trail of tears.
75% fail. Hoorays.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a public statistic.
They were
Wow.
so nice when we met at Starbucks.
They bought me my coffee.
That's right. All
Yeah, now
right. Well,
you've got shadow equity, so good luck.
yeah. If you ever want to see your dog again, you better start selling more. In your experience, Kat, what separates the founders who actually get funded from the ones who don't, even if their idea seems to be rock solid and unique?
Oh yeah, it's got nothing. It's like 2% the idea and 98% the founder. Again, at the very early stages, it's different when you've reached a different tier and you've got other operating partners. But at the very early stages, I also meet a lot of entrepreneurs where they'll do 20 accelerators or they'll buy every program or course, and we call them shelf help entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
And because they're not willing to execute and take the risk. And so I've interviewed over 100, maybe even almost 200 investors at this point. And on top of what we screen in for our investor program, because I don't take on just any founder for these reasons. Like I don't want to have that kind of reputation. I want to make sure that I'm bringing on founders who are prepared to win and execute, but we look for four qualities. It's one, coachability, two, grit, three, passion, and four, transparency. If a founder doesn't have all four of those qualities, we're going to hate each other. I don't want to work with you. I don't think I can help you. And when you think of coachability, I have so many founders who are like, oh no, it's just my pitch deck. I'm like, at a quick glance, I can guarantee you it's just not the pitch deck. Two, if you're not willing to make changes, why would we work together? If you've got it all figured out, then go do it. And when you think of grit, this is going to be so hard. You're going to have 100 times more no's than yeses. It is going to be just a really like soul crushing, difficult experience, but you have to be that kind of personality who thinks, bring it on. And if I haven't had enough, if you don't feel like quitting 100 times over, you haven't tried hard enough, like
Yeah,
truly.
so
And then
true.
there's the transparency where I'll have someone say, like, oh, how can I spin this? Because I don't want to showcase my real sales. And it's like, good luck getting an investor to care and take the next steps. And then the last piece in terms of passion is an investor or myself can't be more excited than you are. No one will ever be more excited about your idea. And you can't think about, oh, I'm going to have them validate so I can go get excited about the idea. And so there's so much psychology behind it as well in terms of a founder, but it's truly like I think all great founders are a little crazy because what it really
So
takes
true.
to get to that level is
Hmm.
really, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the average person.
Tracy and I continue to work on we might have to come get in your program. We keep working on our road to retail merchandise and the stuff we've come up with for entrepreneurs. We have a couple of t-shirts. One says all gas, no brakes, and the other one says bridge out. And on the back says it'll be there when I get there. And they just keep going. They're,
I've got two for you. Ours are so I have a sweatshirt that says no pitch, no check. And then another that I'm gonna make is decks don't get checks.
Oh, I
yeah,
like that.
I sat in on a meeting with a private equity group founder who I've known for a long time. And this person did an awesome deck. And then he said, well, where do you stand on actually making your beta or your first batch? And he goes, oh, we're not even close. And he said, and I'll never forget, he said, well, I don't invest in decks. And it was over.
Yep.
It was over.
Mm.
Tracy?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were advising a founder today and they're maybe feel like they're a little early for an investor, what's the first, step you would tell them to take?
Good, you probably are. So, number one is think about doing everything in your power to get customer pre-sales, customer financing, like
Mhm.
get as collecting as much customer data as you can. You shouldn't be going to raise money to do that. That work is free, that work is grit. You don't have to pay for a bunch of surveys. You can go do that on your own. The two
Right.
is if your idea stage to little in revenue, corporate grants. Like it's truly a copy and paste format. And so if anyone listening on the show wants to DM me the word grants and say you came from the show, I'll send you the recording of the grant masterclass I did, free grant masterclass. So you just DM me that and I'll give you the full like 45-hour long webinar on all that background so you can get some more insight on it. But truly the foundation is talk to your customers, get sales, and be going for grants in tandem because it's PR, credibility, cash, getting feedback. You're learning how to communicate the business. There's so much value there. But I think a lot of founders, they get nervous of, oh, now I have to go pitch and get the customers and do all the things. Like no one's too good for that.
Yeah,
So,
that's so interesting. And one thing that I think in your list of things that a founder needs to be, they also need to be a good salesperson. And if you don't like to sell, or you're not a good salesperson, or it makes you nervous, you might be in the wrong business. Do you agree
But
with
it's a
that?
learned skill. Truly, I'm
I
a
agree.
pure example of that, and I've helped many founders with it. It used to make me nauseous, like truly, truly nauseous. But I truly believe if someone's willing to learn that, it can absolutely be a skill that you can learn and acquire.
Yeah, I
well,
agree too.
it's amazing. And as a tennis player, you might appreciate the golf analogy. The old golfer Chichi Rodriguez once said, "It's amazing how lucky I get the more I practice." So, with the
I'm also a
U.S.
golfer, so I appreciate the analogy.
Yeah, yeah. It's so one question. I know we're going to get to this in a minute with Tracy, but sadly, I can't contain myself. When you keep talking about corporate grants, Kat, can you give just a quick sense, and then Tracy will dig in deeper. Are
Yeah.
these like $500? Are they like 50,000? Is it what's the range of these? And the answer might be, Bruce, it depends. But if you had to ballpark, would you say they're usually about $25,000 if you can get all the way through the process?
Well, it varies. So there's check sizes all the way from $500 to upwards $200,000 plus. The government side is a bit bigger, but more strings attached, and it's more of a expense disbursement system, not pure cash in the bank. The average, like true corporate grant, is no strings attached. It's not a loan. I've won check sizes anywhere from 5K, 10K, 25, 50, 100 plus. We've had founders win 85K, 120K, collect multiple checks up to getting 155K, 97,000, like, around the six-figure mark, I think is where you can really collect and stack. But I see on average really quick wins are between the 10 to 25K range. But I just was worked with an organization called Gimme Beauty where they are giving away $40,000 cash to one founder, pure cash for the business. And so it really depends. You can kind of choose, but a quick story. The one I'd come off a $25,000 grant win, and my dad was like, how are things going? And I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to apply to this $5,000 grant. And he goes, well, how long is it going to take you? And I said, well, about 2 hours. And it really didn't. It took me like an hour and a half. But he goes, well, the last time I checked, you don't make $2,500 an hour. So how about you sit your butt down and do the grant? And I was like,
Attaboy, Dad.
upset,
Yeah, good advice.
Or
humbled.
else or else out of the basement, Kat.
Yeah, literally. No, when I say I worked in their basement, not only I kept all my inventory there, office, I had 10,000 units plus inventory shipped to their garage, and the semi truck pulled up, and I'll never forget. I was like, Mom, please don't come home. Please don't come home. And I'm starting to load it off, and they're like, where's the lift gate? Where's your team? And I'm like, me. And then my mom pulls up behind and couldn't even pull up to the driveway because a literal semi truck was blocking the whole neighborhood road. And she looked at me and just shakes her head because I had to manually take off every single box and bring it in and find a place for it. So they were quite patient with me.
All right, Kat, now I got to ask, what did you have delivered to your house?
So
What was your
my first
product?
one on my gym locker, I didn't want to be a fanny pack girl, so I invented a wearable wrist wallet, like a size of an ID for cash and small essentials. So you can hide it with your sleeve. You can work out. I had people who went to tailgates, bar hop, festival travel. It just fit small essentials, so we could pack a lot in a single box. But I invented a couple wearable accessories to fit essentials.
That's a cool idea.
Neat idea. I love it. So
That's
we've
right.
kind of talked a little bit, Kat, about grants. So tell us a little bit more about how, the process, how they work, and what restrictions. And you've kind of already told us a little bit what a grant is. So just tell us a little bit about the process. How does it work in general?
So it's easier than you think. They can be anywhere from 2 questions to 25 or 30 questions. And typically, organizations ask the same core questions about your story, what you do with the money, competition, like your kind of pitch would pitch an investor in a way.
Right.
And you answer, and they'll tell you, all right, you have a max of maybe 250 words or whatever. Sometimes they don't have a limit. And you just fill out the form. Sometimes they'll ask for a pitch video. Sometimes it's in person. Sometimes it's written. Depends, varies. And you press submit. And the check could arrive in the mail. Or again, if you're pitching a person and you've got 3 minutes or whatever it is, like we just had one of our founders won the Alibaba grant in Vegas and got flown there in front of Damon John and Lori Grenier, and there's a huge cash prize associated with it. So it can vary, but it's seriously like you get paid out any couple weeks later from win to cash check in the mail, like cash in the bank. It's a very quick process usually.
Do you get notified or does it just hit your bank
Oh, they notify, accept the winnings or whatever it might be. Or if it's in person, they might have a fun big fake check that they'll present to you and do photos. Or they'll make a social media announcement, but they'll
like getting
definitely
accepted to college, you get the email
exactly,
and you open it and the Notre Dame fight song starts if you've been accepted. And if you get
exactly.
denied, it's the Gong Show theme from, I think, is that it? Is that how it works, Tracy? I don't
No,
know.
that's not how it works at all.
It should.
Luckily I got accepted, but that was
Yes.
before they did it that way. So Kat, we kind of missed one thing. Tracy asked a good question about, what the people do to do right. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see founders make when they're trying to raise capital, aside from maybe not working through that logical order of 5 things you listed right at the beginning of our discussion?
Well, if you want to go the fundraising route, you have to think of your fundraise as a system. It's not spray and pray. You should treat it like a sales process in terms of a list of prospects, how you're going to reach out to them, following up with them. So I'd say like the real second bucket kind of attached to that is I'll hear founders are like, oh, if investors don't reply to me, I don't want them. It is all about your follow-up. They will never get back to you. They have 1,000 emails in their inbox. You are deal 2075 of month 3 of the year. Like, good luck. You are a small little inkling of the opportunity that they see and they get. And so it's about treating it as a literal system process. There are phases in certain checks that you really want to think about and get through, and like having it like a sales CRM system. It is
Right.
not something to just do it casually. There's so much that really goes into it. And the third is, I mean, I want to reiterate though, like, it's not about just sending your deck to everyone. I actually prefer to send a one pager because the average deck gets scanned in less than 2 minutes. That's a Doc Hub stat. It's not my opinion. Like, it literally, they're glancing, they're clicking through because you know, of a sea of deals. Investors don't have a problem with deal flow, they have a problem with good deal flow. The majority is actually very poor. And the third element of that is not doing enough research on who you're emailing. I had a founder who told me this is a true story. I bought a list of 15,000 investors and emailed every single one of them the same message, and not one replied. Shocking.
Shocking.
And
Yeah.
yeah, shocking. So it's not technically a quantity game there. Quality comes first because if you don't fit their thesis, match something in their portfolio. They don't even invest in their stage or industry or region. I mean, you're going to waste so much time. And so I see a lot of founders, they're lazy in the process. They're not willing to put a list of their ideal investor together and do thoughtful outreach of like, I'm a fit for you because, and creating that FOMO and attention based on what you know about the person versus mass outreach of like, hey, round's open, throw your money at me. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, so Kat, you've hit on a few things Tracy and I have hammered home with other guests, even on other topics, but it's interesting how certain things are just logical and they just have to happen regardless of what you're talking about. So you just said kind of know your customer, these investors. You can't send the same thing to 15,000 people. In when Tracy and I speak to brands, it's like you're not making the same pitch to Dollar General that you're making to Ulta that you're making to Target. You're just not. And we talk about the order and sequence of approaching brick and mortar retailers. We talk about testing online because it's easier to, jack around and noodle your price until you figure it out without.
Mhm.
We've talked to retailers, Kat, that have said, what irritates me is when a brand or a company comes in and asks me questions that they should know if they did 5 minutes of prep. How many stores do you have? What's your strategy? What happened in Canada? Well, we closed it. That's what happened. Well, what else? No, we closed it. That's the end of the story. And then follow up. Follow up. The other thing we say, and I think you would agree with this, Trace and I always say that when you follow up with people that you might meet at trade shows, put in at least one or two sentences in your short follow up email to prove you were listening and that this isn't a mass email.
Mhm.
Hey, Kat, it was interesting to meet you. I really like what you're doing. I was a terrible tennis player, so I'm glad we're not playing. Oh, he actually listened to my little talk from the stage and remembered a couple of things. So it's amazing how people just, now that it's football season, they just fumble on so many things that should be like, putting your pants on when you leave the house in the morning. It's like, what are you doing? Are you even trying to win?
Yeah.
All right. So,
Well,
Kat,
I have two
oh,
follow-up
please go
questions
ahead.
for
I'm
Kat.
sorry.
Sorry, Bruce. So one is how important are referrals to investors? Like, hey, can you refer me to somebody? And then two, on the grant process, how long does it take from the time you fill it out to the time you get a check? Is there like an average time? So those are my two follow-up questions.
I'll start with the grant one first, just so it's fresh. It can take anywhere from like 30 minutes to a couple hours to apply, depending how long. And by the time you submit, they'll all say in their terms, we will end the applications here, let notify winners here, and pay you out like you'll be paid out in whatever period of time. They're very direct. There are legal implications around it, so they do have to be very clear in their terms. That's the beauty of it. But 98% of founders don't even read the terms. So not actually competitive as competitive of a process as you would think. And so it's usually very quick. Literally, it can be weeks to months till you find out and cash is in the bank. Did that answer the grant one
Yeah.
completely?
Yes.
And then on the investor side, in terms of the warm kind of intros, it's very important, especially with all the fluff and AI and all the scraping. And, investors hate being in a lot of these databases because they just get spammed by the wrong people. And so investors love deal flow from other investors. Pre-vet,
Mhm.
talk to them. So, or even other people that they may trust. So if you can figure out who their mutual connections are, build relationship, ask questions, or even build relationships, this is the biggest hack with the portfolio companies they've already invested in. And you ask them for an introduction. They're going to take that meeting every time.
Yeah.
It's just much more efficient. But I know a lot of investors are like, if I don't get a warm intro, I won't talk to them. They just get too much poor cold outreach.
Yeah, that's we've heard that before too. So that's a really good point, folks. If you can get that warm intro, that's great. And as you look for the more quote unquote sophisticated investors, Kat hinted at some trails of tears of getting involved with the wrong people. Most of the bigger investors specialize in certain areas. One thing that always makes my body temperature drop about 8 degrees is when they're a generalist. They'll look at anything. It's like, come on, man. You can't be good at bowling balls,
Everyone's got
bass
a
boats.
true specific thesis when you really get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah, yeah. The generalist thing, I like stop listening. It's like, okay, you will torture us because you've never done a skincare brand ever. So if you try to apply your airplane propeller thinking to this, it's going to be gruesome. All right, Kat, we're rounding third, heading toward match point in your tennis days. So, who has had the greatest impact on your career, and what did this person do for you that's stuck with you as you've gotten your own business up and running? You don't necessarily need to name names, but what did this person do? And you're like, God, they really hung in there with me when I didn't deserve it.
I'd say out of all the people and things, my mom was super influential because I grew up her in her bridal store where she worked with her sister for 26 years. And I literally like they would trade babysitting us in the back rooms so the one could work and manage. So I got to see how hard they worked. And then when I was a little older, I got to wash windows to go get ice cream. And like then I started selling dresses. And then she was the one who helped me, like allowed me to use her seamstress in bridal store to start my first company. She was also the one, this is one of the biggest inflection moment points, was I remember being in their basement and I get an email from Good Morning America. It was like, if you accept to be on the show, you have to be willing to send, it was like 10,000 units within 48 hours. And I only had exactly 10,000 units practically. I'd even call back a little bit from Amazon if I want to hit their minimums. And I was party of like one and two part-time people. I personally shipped everything. I personally brought everything to the USPS. I was so tiny and 20 early, like, what was I, like 19 or 20 at the time? And they had no idea like how tiny I actually was as a company and as a human being. And I walked literally upstairs and started crying. And my mom was like, I can't ship this amount of product. This is all I have. Like, what a bummer. I wasted this. And she looks at me, she goes, that's the easy part. You get back down there, you tell them yes, and we're going to figure it out. And that moment changed was like a domino effect in so many ways. Not only did we ship that amount of product, we shipped it in 24 hours, used my in-laws HVAC warehouse to ship all the product out of it. Like all the cooling units are downstairs and we're upstairs, like moving in between the pipes and everything, shipping. I've got 10 of my family members. I paid them in tacos. And we filled up two USPS trucks. They were mad. They didn't even want to come back. They're like, you're ruining our routes. And we're literally dumping the orders into them. And I did four more or three more. So I did four total. And that final one, because I could prove that I repeated it, that's how I sold my company. So
Wow.
super like she had so many moments where she was like, suck it up, we'll do this. I'm like, okay.
Well, so she obviously forgave you when she couldn't get into the garage, and
Yeah. She actually
actually
helped
that was her
upgrade box.
plan. That was her plan. She had to help you get rid of all that stuff so she could park her car.
Well, I have pictures of us carrying boxes up together, and she didn't stay mad for that long, and then helped me move them into the garage, and then
Well,
I
you know
had to
what?
get them off her roof.
Good for you and for listening to your mother and just rolling the dice because a lot of the times opportunity knocks and you're not allowed the time to say I'll be back to you in a week once I can think about it. You just
Ouch.
got to go for it and then you say, holy smokes, what have I just done? But you can worry for 2 seconds and then you got to get going.
All
So
gas,
good,
no brakes.
good. Exactly, exactly. Tracy,
Absolutely. So, just final thing we want to talk about, which is always the fun question. So, tell us your favorite sports team, band, or brand, and why you follow them.
I have to say brand. Sarah Blakley was such
Mm,
a big inspiration to me in the early days because I was like, I'm not gonna get married. I'm gonna focus on my business. I'm gonna give up everything. I'm gonna do all the gritty things. And just there were so many points of her journey that I resonated with and kept telling myself in those hard moments of like, you want to give up, look at what she did, kind of thing. So she's, I think, the face of the brand that inspired me more than, most. I wasn't like I didn't spend time fangirling over bands or concerts or things. I was fangirling over founders and Shark Tank episodes.
I
well,
love that. I'm a huge Sarah Blakley fan as well, because Sarah actually, Bruce, went to Florida State, so she doesn't claim that too much. And I'm also a huge Jesse Itzler fan, so I follow Jesse, and He's quite an amazing guy as well. So I love that. Love that.
Well,
So, Bruce.
Kat, why don't can you tell us how can people get in touch with you to learn more about Power to Pitch? I know you made your comment earlier about the DMing for the your grant episode, but how can people get in touch with you to learn more or perhaps reach out and fall under your mentorship?
Yes, so to apply to work with us, it's powered2pitch.com/apply. So on our website, the application to get a call and see if we're the right fit to support you would be there. And I share a ton of content, founder support. I'm very active on Instagram and LinkedIn. On Instagram, I am at Kat Weaver, and LinkedIn, that's where I spend the most time, I would say. Most daily insights. I've grown a lot there. Really, really love the platform. And then just started a YouTube channel at I am Kat Weaver. So I've got a ton of places in terms of free value and content, but you really want to start winning some checks. It would be power2pitch.com/apply, but you can DM me for the link as well. I'm active all over the place.
All right. Well, Kat, thank you again so much for coming on the show. I think there's a very good chance that you might be our most dynamic guest, as you predicted you might be at the beginning here before we started rolling. So thank you so much. Tracy, take us into the big finish.
Absolutely. So, Kat, thank you so much for joining us. This has been fantastic. I know our audience is going to just love this episode. And audience, continue to follow us on Spotify as well as Apple. We post every Tuesday, and we're also on our LinkedIn page and also our website, www.road2retail.com. So thanks again, Kat. Great episode. Bruce, my friend, good to see you.
Good luck out there, folks.